Welcome to Specific Lab. Today I'm going to show you how to put together a narrow workbench so you can utilize every little bit of space you have in your workshop. Let's begin. Now, just like many of you, I work in a small shop and I'm trying to utilize as much of the space as I can. And I have this area here which measures out 69 inches by about 13.5 inches. Now, before installing this workbench in this corner, I have a little gap in between these two walls. So I'm going to add a little bit of caulking right in here to prevent any bugs or moisture or heat loss from going through over time, since it'll be much harder to do later on after the workbench is in place. Now, one other thing I have to be careful of in this build is this step down of the concrete. I would only guess that maybe it had something to do with the foundation of the house. It was done before I purchased it, so I'm not sure. In any case, I'm going to have to make sure the back legs are a little bit shorter than the front legs, so I have to measure all that out. Now, if you ever have to build with an uneven floor, here's a good tip. Take a carpenter square and a level. You take your level and you place it up against the wall and make sure that your wall is nice and vertical. Then you take your carpenter square and you place it up against the wall, making sure it is nice and flush. Then you take a measuring tape and measure out the distance that you want, the height at the very front of your workbench. And then you can mark that on the wall, and you know that the front of your workbench is going to be at the height you desire, and so will the back.
And it was now time to cut down some wood. So I cut out the back frame and 4 support arms that run across under the top bench. And after a quick sanding, I used my pocket hole jig to make some holes for attachment. Now, when using pocket screws, it would be smartest to turn the wood like this so that the screws go in at an angle like this and get a better bite. But I want to hide these and have better access to them when I'm assembling all this, so I'm going to turn them like this and maybe a little bit weaker, but I'm going to have a few extra pieces to give it strength. I also use a corner square and a couple clamps to secure the supports when assembling.
Now that I have this cut in position, I want to do some simple legs against the wall here just to give this some added support in the back.
I then made sure the frame was also level before proceeding.
Now, to help prevent the leaching of water through the concrete block, I've added a thick layer of paint. Now I can install the wood on top of it and less likely a chance for it to absorb any moisture. Now, I'm planning on drilling some holes through this wood into the concrete block just to add some extra support. So I've strategically picked out some places and I'm trying to avoid the mortar here and just see a good location of each of the blocks. Now, to hold this against the wall, I plan on using some 3/16 inch tapcon screws. These are meant to go into concrete. Now, you may be thinking, these are not very big, and you're right. But that's why I have 3 legs on the back of this setup. These are going to hold a majority, if not almost all of the weight. These screws are just going to hold it gently against the wall so that there's no vibration and shaking whenever it's getting used. Now, anytime you plan on drilling in concrete, make sure you have the correct masonry bit and you have a hammer drill. Now, I'm going to take this off the wall, drill the holes first, then put it up there and drill those. Now, as you can tell here, this is not meant for wood, so it's clogging up a little bit. So I'm going to have to get a regular bit, drill these out, and this will go much easier. Now, looking at this, I realized that I need to secure the legs in place first, and that way I can easily set this top on top, and I don't have to worry about the legs maneuvering and falling out of alignment, causing more issues and more problems. So let's get that done.
Now, drilling into concrete can be a slow process. Now, if you're drilling in the concrete block, don't force it, or you can bust out part of the back of the block, which can weaken it. Just use a slow, light pressure when drilling. I then secured the leg with 2 screws.
Now that I have the legs secured in place, I wanted to secure this top as well. Now, I want to put it on this wall first just to give it a little extra added strength. Now, I did discover that the studs going in here, I only have one right here near the door, and so I need to add a support bar right under here just to give it strength, and then I'll screw everything in.
I then secured the frame with 4 screws. It was now time for the front of the frame, which I attached using pocket screws. Unfortunately, my drill was a little long for this location, so I had to use a ratchet for each of these.
Now, I've temporarily put some wood here to give me an idea where the legs are going to be. And looking at this a little closer, I do realize they're going to be weak. And so I need to add a piece of wood that goes the full length of this that will brace them, and that'll give them more strength. But also, that'll give me a chance to put another shelf and have a little bit more storage. Now, right over in this corner, I did remove this one piece and stained it so that it would look better along this wall. I also add an additional piece down here, and this will be the front side brace for that front board.
I then measured and trimmed the leg and used some 2.5 inch screws to hold it in place. I did have to pry up a little bit on this side to make sure it was level, so I used a clamp to assist.
Now the board I'm going to put on the back here just to give the shelf some added support is actually one I found in the discount pile. I got it at 70% off, so always make sure you check that discount pile. And it is a little bit warped, but I'm not concerned. It's going to be one, way in the back, so it's going to be nice and flattened out once I have it screwed in place. And two, you're not going to be able to see it because it has a shelf on top of it.
And for the front support, I cut down another 2x4 and used a combination of pocket screws and screws through the front leg to secure it in place.
Now the setup of these boards is probably strong enough just to leave as is, but I plan on putting some heavy tools on it, so I am going to add one more piece right here in the center, just to give it that added support.
And I secured it from the back side.
Now for this workbench, I was originally planning on using some 3/4 inch plywood. But after I started looking through my wood collection, I found this one piece. It's a little bit thinner than 3/4, but it is badly warped, which will make it difficult to use in some of the other projects I want to do. So what I'm thinking about doing is cutting this down into 3 sections, gluing 2 of them together, and that'll be the top, and the third section will be the second shelf. Now you can get a better idea of exactly how warped these are, but once I glue them together and screw them together, they'll be nice and flat. Don't have to worry about them being warped. Now I'll give this a few minutes dry. I'm going to take the shelf and have to cut out some notches to fit around all these posts. Just a little bit too narrow. Now to cover up some of these corners, I've cut down some of the scrap and I'm just going to screw them in place. But before I attach all this together, I want to give it a touch of color. Now that is starting to look really good. Now there's a great way to construct a narrow workbench so that you can store extra stuff in all those little spaces that you may have not thought of before. Well, if you like this video, make sure you click the like button and tell me what you think about it in the comments. I also have some other great videos right over here, so make sure you check those out. Otherwise, have fun building!